Russia is rich in cultural tradition. But for its citizens, times are hard. They're hopeful that perestroika will bring needed economic reform. But change is slow to come, and they still wait in long lines for food and consumer goods that are in short supply. Their government is hopeful that joint ventures with the West, made possible by perestroika, will help speed up the transition to a market-driven economy. But imagine actually trying to bring free enterprise to Russia, a country where political philosophy, inadequate technology, and cultural differences present nearly insurmountable odds. Imagine trying to open a McDonald's restaurant in Moscow. It's 1976, and George A. Cohan, senior chairman of McDonald's Canada, has opened negotiations with the Soviets for the first McDonald's in Moscow. He likes to call it hamburger diplomacy, but this diplomatic feat would take more than 12 years to accomplish.
You know, you talk about the frustration of dealing over there. I mean, you'd work for months with a group of people. You thought you were close to a deal. You thought you had it. You'd come in the next morning with one or two things to resolve, and there'd be new people at the table on the other side, and you'd say, well, where's Vladimir? We've been dealing for 3 months. And they'd say, well, I'm the person you have to complete the deal with. And you'd go back to scratch nearly. And so, you know, we hung in and we worked hard at it. We finally made it. This negotiation outlasted 3 Soviet premiers.
McDonald's partner in the deal is the Food Service Administration of the Moscow City Council, which runs all 11,000 restaurants in the city. Restaurants that range from elegant dining with china and linen to the not-so-elegant outdoor cafes. There are places to get just a cup of tea and places where everyone shares the same glass. But service is generally slow, and meeting the needs of Moscow's 9 million residents and 3 million commuters is an enormous problem for the Soviet government. The Soviets knew that their traditional food service methods were inadequate, and they were eager to learn from McDonald's experience. Nonetheless, it wasn't until April 1988 that McDonald's signed the largest joint venture ever made between a Western food service company and the Soviet Union. With the restaurant opening set for January 31st, 1990, there was only a year and 10 months to get the sophisticated McDonald's system up and running in a country where nothing like this had ever been attempted before. In 1988, businesses in Moscow were still firmly grounded in the 19th century. Mark Weiner, general director of the joint venture, was charged with getting the office up and running, a major challenge in a city where it could take up to 6 months just to get one international telephone line. Nevertheless, the restaurant had to open on time, and the other members of the international team each had crucial jobs to do. Cohan and his Moscow partners were responsible for finding the right restaurant site. Mike Gearling, vice president of purchasing for McDonald's in Germany, was brought in to find supplies of high-quality food that would meet McDonald's standards. Jeff Godden, head of operations for McDonald's Moscow, would oversee all the details of running the new restaurant, including hiring and training its Russian staff. And Dick Manthe, an American construction engineer, would supervise the building of a food production and distribution center, where local food would be turned into the McDonald's fare known around the world. All this in a country where most joint ventures have failed, but where McDonald's seems to have a fighting chance, according to Marshall Goldman of Harvard University.
McDonald's is different. They're going back into the roots of the system. If it works and it spreads and it's not going to be just for the party elite, it's going to be for the masses. This, for Gorbachev, will be one of the first concrete steps he's had towards moving towards perestroika.
The joint venture partners selected a restaurant site then occupied by the Café Lyra, centrally located on Pushkin Square, and demolition began. The Lyra served 200 people a day, the new McDonald's would serve over 25,000. As construction on the restaurant began, the first challenge for Geerling was to find the beef and fresh produce the restaurant would need. Although everything was available locally, certain varieties, like the kind of potato that makes the best French fries, were not. So Hans van den Hoek, an agronomist from Holland, was brought in to help.
This is a typical Russian potato. This potato is ideal to make a good long French fry. Well, this potato, although it has an excellent taste, Russian potatoes are very, very tasty, the average Russian potato. But you cannot make French fries out of this. I mean, the French fries would have this length.
So Geerling and van den Hoek imported special seed potatoes from Holland, which would be planted in Russian soil. For the first time, McDonald's would put all of its food processing operations under one roof in a building the size of 3 football fields. The land was provided by the Russians, but because it was outside the Ring Road, an off-limits area for foreigners, getting non-Soviet contractors to the site required extensive negotiation.
Free travel to foreign specialists in this country.
While such complicated problems were being worked out in Russia, 4 Soviet manager trainees hired by the joint venture arrived in Canada to begin 9 months of intensive training. It was their first trip to the West, and they arrived exhausted and overwhelmed. They were shown where they would live. They were given something that's hard to come by in the Soviet Union, maps of the city. They got their first feel of hard currency. They were introduced to modern appliances like the dishwasher. And they went shopping at a Western grocery store.
You like cookies?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get some cookies then.
They were amazed at the quantity and variety of food, but the packaging was confusing.
You see all of your products